This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 177. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hi.
Kodra.
Hello.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hey there.
It is awful nice to have you back, Thalen.
It's good to be back.
Though I have a feeling that you will also be gone in a very short period of time.
This is highly likely. I have a tiny person incoming.
Woohoo! Yet another.
Yep.
Yet another AggroChat baby.
I am told they require lots of attention.
They do.
Yes.
They require an excess amount of attention.
As is to be expected. I mean, so in some news this week, we did something silly in that our Free Company house now exists in a totally different ward in Final Fantasy XIV.
So,
And by we mean Tam
yeah.
and Ashgar. That was the collective we, but yeah, no, it was absolutely Tam.
I was in the queue the entire time while this was going on, so...
How much guild do you have to dump to do this thing?
A large house is 20k.
No, 20 mil.
Sorry, 20 mil.
Yeah.
Yes, not 20k. Wrong comma.
A large or medium?
Medium.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, I thought we got a medium house.
Yeah,
we
medium
got a
house
medium.
now. After going through Shirogane Extreme.
I mean, and this is like kind of a long thing coming because, like, I mean, that the money that was split.
Knew this was coming.
Right, like, so the money that is in this giant pool was also, or at least some of it was donated, right?
Large portion of it.
Yeah, quite a bit of it, which is really cool. It's like I don't really have a lot to like add to this one because as the guild leader, I logged in and bought a house.
So,
Like, it wasn't-
so here's the thing: is like we are a story of things going right, but from the sounds of it,
A
not
lot
many
of people
people
are really salty.
Yeah, not many people really had this same experience. Now, the weird thing about it
720
is,
plots went on for sale, and by 3:10 a.m. they were all gone.
Yeah, I mean, I beelined for the plot we were targeting and had a bunch of errors in that I couldn't actually get it. Like, it was giving me a plots are not available error.
Really, that error meant that somebody else bought it and it wasn't showing that.
Yeah. And I didn't know that. So I hung by there a little bit longer than I probably should have, and then hopped around to try to find some other one, and miraculously found one that a medium house on the beach that nobody had taken.
we got absolute prime real estate.
It's pretty good. It's not the best one we could have gotten, but I'm not...
Not the one with the private beach, but from what I hear, we don't want the one with the private beach.
Yeah. Well, it's also not one that... It's a little bit more annoying to get to the market board than it used to be.
We actually have to go up a set of stairs now, rather than it being directly in front of our house.
Yeah.
It's just weird, like, so many people we know managed to get houses just fine, so I thought, oh, well, maybe they had plenty of housing. But, yeah, no, like, that was the exception, and maybe it was just the fact that we're on a slightly smaller than insanely huge server.
Also, we know crazy people. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, this is
We might
true.
be crazy people.
I mean, I find it insane that Spiral now has a large Shirogane house of her own. Not a guild house, just her own.
That's the other thing. Like, when housing came out, it was an extremely large amount of money.
It was designed that you had to be a guild to get it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's very much not the case anymore.
No. Like, an individual could swing a 20 mil medium house fairly easily if they saved up.
Yeah, I mean, had I not donated about 10 mil to the housing fund, I could have afforded a medium house myself. And had I thought about, or had I known how it was going to turn out, we could have, when I got there, nabbed the plot directly across from us in the little alcove that we're in. But in an attempt to sort of double our odds, I gave Ash half of the money, and we both went for different houses, which worked out because I think by the time all of the plots that we would have wanted were gone by the time that your queue was done.
Yep.
So one of us managed to get in. I mean, I hit it literally immediately, like as fast as I could.
I thought I did, but 1,000 people got in front of me.
Yeah, I still had like a 150 person queue.
But since then, Yoshi P has come on to say that they're looking at adding more wards and handling this in a slightly more sane way, because this land rush thing did not really go smoothly.
See, I guess the weird thing about this whole thing is like it's deja vu. Like I went through this in the game Horizons when every time they opened up new player housing, there was this mad land rush. And, you know, even back then, that was before, like, eBay started prohibiting, you know, digital item sales. So, like, people were selling plots of land for, like, $100, $200 and getting it.
I mean, I remember when they opened up when they split all the shards in Ultima Online, the land rush for the PvE half of the world. And it was the same, and a lot was the same deal. You know, people placed houses and then immediately flipped them on eBay.
Yeah, it was just insane. Like I managed to get a house at one point, but it wasn't until what was essentially the 4th or 5th opening of land, and then only because I could log in from work at that time because I was working for a small development house, and like we got in and we barely got our plots, and you know were immediately offered tons of money for them when we got them. And I don't know, like, so physical housing is a cool idea because I like the sense of a neighborhood, but it's also really nice just to have like an instance door that leads to a house that anyone can then go purchase.
I have never once cared about player housing at any significant level. Well, once before. Sorry, I should be clear about that. Only one time prior to Final Fantasy XIV have I cared about player housing, and it is entirely on feeling like my house is part of a community.
I mean, that's fair. Like I hope that we get to know our neighbors, because it was really awesome when our previous ward was super active and we were regularly doing stuff with our neighbors.
Some of our neighbors have come by. I mean, I haven't been on a whole lot this week, but
I know we were plot 13 before. What ward were we in before?
We were in Ward 3.
Okay. I could not remember. And now we're Ward 7, plot 49. Is that correct? I think.
Sounds right.
I know it's Ward 7. I think it's plot 49. Saul has done an amazing job of decorating. And
I haven't seen it. I need to go log in and check.
I have been spending my time on running dungeons over and over to fetch her reagents so she can craft stuff. So I've been doing a lot of Hawk Manor, and I've done some what's the horrible yellow place with the Morvals? Ormvale, yeah. I've done some Ormvale.
The Death Room in Stone Vigil also has unique crafting items in it. It's also not the Death Room if you go in unsynced.
Well, she was wanting specific items, like to craft some stuff. So I targeted a few things and went after them. Turns out 50% drop rate can take a really long time to get if you're being unlucky.
Yeah, it can.
No comment.
I still don't have my Boots of the Divine War. 2 expansions later.
Do you still regularly pop in to try and get them?
Yep, sure do.
I mean, I'm still missing 1 binding, so that's a thing.
I mean, I feel like
it's a lot less than a 50% drop rate.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't count the number of times I've killed Rivendare or whatever the hell the replacement for Rivendare is called.
I don't remember his name either.
Because I always wanted the undead horse, but I apparently have a really high tolerance for farming things. So
you do.
No comment.
So I know a lot of people have made it further in Guild Wars to Path of Fire since we last brought it up.
Leaping lizards.
Literally.
Yes.
Man. So in addition to 2 really, really cool new, at least 2 really, really cool new elite specs. Path of Fire has probably my favorite implementation of mounts I've ever seen in an MMO.
They're pretty great.
Because you've heard this rant from me before, where I don't like mounts that are just GM move. It's just a button you press to move like a GM. Because there's nothing. It's just like it's like a cheat code. It's like, sure, cheat codes are fun for a little bit, and then it's just like the thing you do, and it's not interesting. And it's like, I get the collecting visuals and so on, but at its core, I'm pressing a button to run faster. And that's definitely not the case with the Guild Wars 2 mounts. I
also press that button to run faster.
It's true. Moving faster is a function of the Guild Wars 2 mounts. They just are also doing other things. And because they're doing other things, and because like different mounts have different purposes, and so you've got to think about which mount you're using where and in what ways, they do a lot of things. Like, all of your mounts are instant cast. Just, you press a button and now you're on your mount. Press another button and now you're off your mount. There's no, like, mount, dismount. There's none of the, like, weird little friction cast time annoyances that are supposed to balance out the fact that you've got GM move exist in Guild Wars 2. It's just a button and now you're on your mount. And it works because the mounts themselves are mechanically interesting.
Well, and the truth is, like, mounts in general are just a worse version of J-boots.
Yeah.
Like they've always just been a worse version of J-boots.
What did J-boots do?
Click to go faster. They cast Spirit of the Wolf, which was a speed buff that just let you run faster.
Yeah.
And J-boots were instant cast, click, go fast. It was self-only. You couldn't buff other people with it, but it was like it solved the problem more elegantly than most movement speed things have done. And this is at least instant, which makes all the difference in the world.
Yes.
That you can just pop on and off freely.
I mean, for a very long time in WoW, the right answer for many things was play a druid.
I mean, that never stopped being the right answer for a lot of things.
Yeah, I suppose it is. It's still the right answer because it's
still instant. Travel form is mount speed in places you can't fly.
Oh wow, really? As opposed to just not quite mount speed?
Yes.
Okay, so the right answer is just be a druid.
And they have flight form.
That's the other piece that I mean. And that was the thing, was I played a druid when I was on my way out of WoW in order to feel less annoyed by the like moment to moment mechanics. I played a druid because a bunch of the stuff that annoyed me went away. And I wasn't hyped about mounts in Guild Wars 2 because it's not something that normally excites me. Because the implementation is more or less always 2-second cast time. Now you move 60 to 100% faster, and that's it. And you've got a graphic.
Well, and honestly, like, Guild Wars 2's implementation is the second time I have had a mount system like this. The problem being, EverQuest ruined it whenever they implemented full flying mounts because they just made every other mount obsolete the second they did that. But they had leapers and gliders, and then, fast land mounts, and between them, you could use them to, get to interesting places. But when flight went in, nobody wanted to use a leaper or a glider because they required more effort than just flying in a straight line.
Yep. Well, I mean, it makes me think of Champions Online that had all of these really mechanically interesting movement things and then flight, and you just took flight.
Champions Online did at least make a decent argument for taking Super as the only other reasonable option.
City of Heroes, I think I usually took Teleport.
Teleport in Champions was janky and not very good.
Yeah, it was not as good as City Heroes was, but like Teleport was super useful because you could go all sorts of weird places with Teleport.
At
least in City of Heroes, like, the penalty for flight was you went slow.
Yeah.
But I think what I like about Guild Wars 2 implementation the most is that not only did they put in these different kinds of movement speeds or movement styles, they also put in reasons why you might want to use them. And that's been the piece missing, like in EverQuest 2, for example. They had these different movement styles, but they were kind of just different versions of moving fast.
Yeah.
There wasn't a reason to do it.
Yeah, and I really like the difference between the Raptor and the Skimmer and the Springer.
Springer.
Yeah.
Springer and the Jackal are stark.
The funny part is that there sort of is a flying mount.
Yep,
you can get once you finish the story.
secret mount.
They've stopped pretending that it's a secret now.
It was never a secret.
It's a griffin, and it flies sort of, except you can't gain height above your starting height.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it's
super
just
glider.
a fancy glider. Yeah, it's a super glider.
But does it? But it glides without losing altitude.
No,
You have to make it
can-
work to make it not lose altitude.
Yeah. You can like
interesting.
dive to pick up speed and then pull back up, and yeah.
See, and that's really cool. Like, that's a really cool implementation of a flying mount.
But like, it doesn't invalidate the Springer or the Skimmer.
Yeah.
Yep. Because you can't get to something above you with it, but you can with the Springer, and you can't go straight across a gap with the Griffin, but you can with the Raptor.
So are griffins affected by updrafts?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, if you want to glider on Heart of Thorns, you probably need your actual glider.
I guess that's my favorite thing about what Guild Wars 2 does is, like, the movement abilities make going through older areas really interesting because now you can do weird stuff with it.
Yeah, and
I've been making use of that when I'm wrapping up my World Complete.
Yeah, it does make
Yeah.
getting vistas and hero points in odd places a lot easier. Like, yes, I could like do this quasi jumping puzzle, or I could just get on my Springer.
And I like that. Like, I think it's cool that the new movement unlocks in each expansion make getting around the previous expansions feel more advanced and more awesome despite your level not increasing. Like, you're not mechanically more powerful, you just feel that way because you're more maneuverable.
Turns out they also did some Cataclysm level filling in the gaps to make getting around the old world reasonable with new mounts.
I mean, that's the one credit I have to give ArenaNet is they have seemingly mastered lateral progression. I mean, it still feels meaningful even though your numbers aren't going up.
Yeah. It feels like proof of the thing I've been saying for years. That, like, you don't have to, and you can come up with all of these different ways to feel like you're constantly progressing. Because I do.
I mean, there are a lot of bars that are still going up. Just none of them are your level.
And I think that all of that progression feels meaningful, and in some ways more meaningful than just my level going up. Like, unlocking, I feel like I've unlocked more I haven't even finished Path of Fire, like remotely even close. I'm on the second zone story-wise. But I feel like I have gotten more unlocks in Path of Fire than I have in most other MMO expansions. Because it's like I've got a whole new suite of abilities, a whole new way to play these various classes, a whole new talent tree, a whole new movement system, new stat combinations to
But
ultimately reject.
I'm going to say, there's one that's okay that you can't get, and two that are garbage that you can get.
I mean, that part's not perfect.
The new stat packages
I mean, one of them is power condition damage, crit damage.
seems pretty good.
It's good, but not as good as condition duration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it's currently impossible to get because you can't craft insignia for it. Oops.
Which seems like an oversight.
It's a bit of one.
But yes, I love the mount system. I think it strikes the balance between being mechanically interesting, but also just letting me run across maps on my mount. You know, it's a thing that works. I can use it to bypass camps of enemies, which in Guild Wars 2 is surprising considering how dense and CC heavy a lot of enemies are. But you can still pull it off. Different mounts function differently and without feeling artificial. It's like, oh, I want to skim across the surface of this water. Maybe I should use this giant manta ray I have. It doesn't feel like, I don't know, the right mount for each area feels natural versus feeling like I'm forced to swap mounts. I do still think the bunny is silly looking.
I think it's amazing.
Yes.
That being said, Path of Fire also got me to happily ride a raptor mount for the first time ever.
This raptor is amazing, though.
Yeah, being able to just like shoot forward feels so good.
When I first got the raptor, I was like, okay, the jump is kind of neat. I really don't like riding a raptor because I think just riding raptors is dumb. Like, I don't really like riding animals. It's just not a thing that I enjoy conceptually, which probably doesn't. You'll notice that my choice of mounts in pretty much every game where I have the choice is something mechanical or something that isn't a mount. But the moment I unlock that tier 3 raptor jump and I tap that button, you just go rocketing forward. I'm like, nope, this raptor is my best friend. This thing's awesome. Though I admit I'm looking forward to the inevitable cosmetic skins.
I desperately need to pick back up with the living story so that I can complete that and feel like I'm actually ready to go into Path of Fire.
It's really
I've
good.
just been running around the zone. Like, I have not completed the story.
Like, it's so easy not to do the story stuff in that game. And honestly, I think you could not necessarily be blamed for making that choice, considering
what it used to be like.
But Living Story Season 2 was pretty good. Once I got used to it, it was pretty good. I really enjoyed the Heart of Thorn story. Living Story Season 3 was great.
Yeah.
And everything Path of Fire has been awesome so far. Like, I was not ready for it to start going into, like, I mean, this is not really spoilers because it's the entire theme of the expansion, but Balthazar is the enemy. And
What? No.
Right? Well, and Balthazar is a god. And the thing about gods is people worship them. So what happens if you worship a god and that god comes down and starts killing everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not something I've seen addressed coherently in a game. Like the personal side of that. And it was really neat. Like, that's a really neat, it hasn't resolved as far as I've gotten, but it's really neat to see it in action.
Well, it's also, I think it's particularly interesting in Guild Wars because specifically the humans worship the gods. None of the other races do. They are specifically the human gods. So the other races are kind of like, okay, what is your god doing? It's like, what's this about?
The Char are actually in a sort of unique position here because, well, in Guild Wars 1, they kill their gods.
Yeah, so the Char in particular are like, see, this is why. More trouble than they're worth.
But it's, and I love, I don't know, there's a lot of fantasy worlds and fantasy stories that are like, oh yeah, the gods are real. They're a real thing that have real impact on the world. But like, the implications of that usually aren't, explored beyond spells per day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in EverQuest, the fact that the gods did something in the world was usually not a good thing.
I mean, one could make the argument that that's the situation in Guild Wars 2 as well, in Guild Wars in general.
Yes, like
the gods, the gods left between Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2. Like, they're gone, and you find out a little bit more of why that happened as part of the Path of Fire story. But yeah.
Yeah, like I recently uncovered some stuff in the Path of Fire story where I was like, that's real not good.
Yeah, like a case can definitely be made that the world is better off with the gods gone. I'm also very happy that the NPCs that were chosen to pal around with you for Path of Fire are all, ones that I like or have grown to like due to it. Like Kanak.
Yes.
Kanak is the best.
Oh, Kanak is awesome. I love Kanak.
I liked him already, actually.
I liked him already, and I like him even more. He was kind of annoying at first.
I started to like him over the course of Heart of Thorns, and then Living Story 3, like, yes, and like just every single thing that comes out of his mouth is awesome.
Yeah, that is a character that I was like, who's this guy and why do I care? Oh, okay, fine. I guess we'll pal around with him. Oh, wow, he's really funny.
And I already really liked Ritlock, but now Ritlock deserves every bit of shit that Kanak gives him, so that relationship is really great.
Yeah.
Ritlock makes bad decisions. This entire expansion exists because Ritlock makes bad decisions.
Quite frankly, Ritlock has been making bad decisions since the start of the game.
He has.
Hey look, this mysterious portal opened up. Oh, I guess I'm gonna jump into it.
Well, I mean, his sword went through it. He kind of had to get it back.
Ritlock makes bad decisions.
Yeah.
Look, it was a special sword.
It's a very special sword. It was still not a good idea.
No.
So I have to continue playing. I'm curious where all of the folks from Living Season 2 are. I guess I've already met one of them, but I am way behind on the story. Mostly, I'm focused on... Did you finish
the Heart of Thorn story?
No.
You're way behind on the story.
Yeah, no, I haven't done Heart of Thorns either. Like, I am on Chapter 8 of Living Story 2.
Yes, I am on Chapter 5 of Living Story 2. I am trying to get my Hollowsmith unlocked.
It's so easy not to play the story of that game because there's nothing that forces you to do that for the most part, but it's totally worth it. And there's a bunch of really fun there's a bunch of really fun chapters too. Like, I had a lot of fun going back and trying to be like, okay, I'm going to try to get the achievements in these ones.
Achievement.
Yeah, the maze speedrun achievement. Like, that was super fun. There's a few that I want to go back to in Path of Fire already to try to get the achievements, because wow, some of those are tough.
The problem that the reason why I stalled out where I did is I was trying to catch up, and then like there was a weekend where they had a lot of instability when Heart of Thorns launched. Not Heart of Thorns, but Path of Fire launched, and I kept getting bounced out of my story instance and disconnecting, which meant I had to restart the whole thing. So I'm like, no, I'm just gonna let things calm down before I pick back up, because I didn't want to have to do that all over again for like the third time. But yeah, like, so I want to do the story and actually get caught up before I dig too far into Path of Fire.
Yeah, and you really should, because
it's totally worth it.
There's a lot of stuff in Path of Fire that if you haven't played through Heart of Thorns in particular, it's kind of like, who are these people? What's going on? Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's like Heart of Thorns and Season 3.
Living Story Season 2 like sold me on that they can now do this instead of Living Story Season 1.
Yeah. Like, I feel like Living Story Season 2 is a drag for a while, because you're like, I don't know who any of these characters are. I'm not attached to any of them. Everyone's talking like I know them because I'm supposed to, but I don't actually. Like, this is really awkward and frustrating. And like, I hit a point where right near the end of Living Story Season 2, it clicked, and I was like, okay, I'm super invested in what just happened here. I want to see where this goes.
Yeah, I think I've reached that point to where I'm invested personally in my team. Like, it took me forever to get used to everyone's personality and actually start to care about them. But basically, like, this is my Destiny's Edge.
Exactly.
Except for it was handed to me, and I didn't get to do any of the precursor work to actually recruit these people. Yeah. But, you know, now that I'm used to them...
at least they're not Destiny's Edge.
Yeah. But,
except
like,
for that one guy.
I kind of feel the same way about them.
The only member of Destiny's Edge that was okay stuck around.
Like, I kind of feel the same way about them as I do, like, the Scions, for example. Like, they're my people.
Yeah.
And given the state of Destiny's Edge, that is a feat.
Destiny's Edge is a garbage fire?
I mean, they were the ones that were supposed to be the chosen ones and failed. And it's starting to look like maybe that's because they weren't actually the chosen ones.
Maybe Clint was wrong.
Yep. Clint saw this group of dudes come and was like, oh, okay, these must be the ones. It's like, nope, it's a few years too early.
Yeah. I mean, and basically, like, we are now fulfilling that role because we are actually competent.
Yep. We have a group of people who don't have horrible clashing personalities all the time, and none of whom are complete morons.
Is that a reference to Logan, Air, Zoja, or all three?
Yes.
I find it funny how, like, everybody, like, agrees on who are the horrible members, but I think everybody has one of them that they can tolerate more than they can tolerate some of the others.
It's probably true. I like Zoja more than the other two that I just mentioned, but they are all idiots. They all behave not like rational people.
Man, there used to be one that I liked other than Ritlock, and then I finished Living Story Season 2, and I was like, what in the shit?
Yep.
that's kind of what I'm going through right now. Is like there was the one that I kind of sort of liked, and then things happen.
Interesting. I'm guessing something happens with Keith.
Man,
Yes.
something happens with Keith, and it makes so much sense, but it's so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I get exactly what she's thinking and what her motivations are, and it all makes sense, but I still want to just shake her.
It's like, God damn it, talk to your friends.
But of course, why would she? Because her friends are idiots. They've proven themselves infighting stupids constantly.
Idiots or have
I'm including myself among her friends at that point.
Sure,
But yeah,
fair.
Yes, you could do this thing without talking to any of us and look like a complete traitor and an awful person, or you could, actually explain what you are doing.
Nope. And I really want to play through Heart of Thorns again as a Sylvari, because oh wow, must that story be different given how Path of Fire is approaching me being a human.
I've seen some of the altered dialogue for Sylvari, although I don't have any Sylvari I only have one Sylvari, and I'm not really that interested in replaying it on a Revenant.
I've seen lines in Path of Fire that are like, I'm pretty sure humans don't get that line, or non-humans don't get that line.
I'm a little curious how the Char lines are going to go, given, Char's sort of history with the situation.
I mean, I'm a fairly worldly Char. Unlike members of some other guilds, I respect my friends.
So, side note, I have to say my favorite thing about Path of Fire is how much more plentiful Orichalcum and Ancient Wood is.
God, they're everywhere.
A whole bunch of materials went down in price massively, and I'm appreciating this.
You know what's not plentiful?
Leather
And cloth. I feel like they could have done something.
I mean, I feel like they should be like maybe there are bodies out in the wild that you can like scavenge clothing off of or something, like, so there'd be like a skeleton out in the desert half buried and you could scavenge cloth or leather or something like that. There needs to be a node. And technically there is a node, but only if you're super lucky in getting it from the Black Lion chest and for your home.
Well, there's the trade chests, if you can remember which one is the one that will give you leather or cloth. And if, what it gives you is actually the one you need.
I do like that addition to Path of Fire, though, where they did add those nodes in. You can find, like, trader chests and get cloth and leather out of them. I also have not been maining Mesmer this expansion.
Oh, what have you been maining?
Sword Mage, anyway.
I have been bouncing between Elementalist and Deadeye. Elementalist and Thief. I played a lot of Chronomancer, and Chronomancer didn't get anything new this expansion, and I don't really care for Mirage. Like, it's funny, and I can make some things that are funny with it, but I don't PvP, so all of the things that are really funny that I can do just aren't that interesting in PvE.
I sort of feel like that's the same way with Warrior, that, like, Spellbreaker feels like a very PvP spec.
Spellbreaker is definitely excelling in PvP at the moment.
Yeah. And I feel like Mirage, I feel like Mesmer really kind of needed a better PvP spec because it wasn't doing super hot, or it wasn't doing super interesting things before.
People were playing base Mesmer, I think, in PvP.
Yeah, people were playing base Mesmer in PvP. And like Chronomancer is still fine and powerful. It just isn't the most interesting thing I could be playing right now. Whereas I love the elemental weaving of Weaver, like flipping in and out of half my bar at a time and cycling through everything and juggling all of that as a melee mage is awesome. I may have unlocked the Hollowsmith spec exclusively to get my lightsaber so I can run around on my Elementalist with a lightsaber.
Hollowsmith is interesting.
I'm really curious how it is, because I feel like I traded from a sensible build into a completely nonsense button spammy build, and I got the impression that you were trying to do the opposite thing.
Yes, I'm trying to do the opposite, which it seems like it will be doing the opposite, but it's pretty squishy.
That's the problem Weaver shares. I like it a lot, but it is lacking in defenses. I have a significantly more survival build than Tam has, and it's still leaves me wanting.
The saddest part about this is that Weaver does not feel any more squishy than I'm used to.
Yeah, because you already play cloth melee classes. I mean, technically I do too, but Necromancer is not squishy in any way. I feel like on my build I'd probably die about as fast as my Guardian does, which is pretty fast, but the Guardian has a lot of blocks and things, and the Weaver kind of doesn't.
I'm still not actually playing with a spec other than the default.
I actually went into PvP so I could see what Berserker was like, and I think I kind of like it.
I mean, it's a fine enough build, but...
I use Berserker for PvE, and it works pretty well.
With what weapons?
Mason Torch.
Okay. I'm probably going to try Sword and Torch.
If I could get a orange or better sword, I would try Sword and Torch.
I mean, there's the market board for such situations.
Yeah, I suppose.
I'll probably craft you one.
I mean, technically, I can also craft you one. I just need to figure out what you need and what resources I need to buy it. Like, I would have to buy a pattern for the inscription.
Right.
Because you probably don't want the power, vitality, toughness that I've been running on things.
No, Berserker mostly wants Vipers.
I feel like there's a missed opportunity there.
What do you mean?
Vipers?
You can play Power Berserker, just you aren't using a torch anymore.
Got it. Okay, I was going to say, because if the Berserker...
No, you can play Berserker
does not
Berserkers.
Want... Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's just that if you're using the torch, then you're doing a lot of setting people on fire.
It really
you're doing
does
some
seem
setting
like
on people on fire no matter what. But if you're using a torch...
It seems like a lot of the DPS specs really want Vipers.
So there are two stats that make you do more damage directly. One of them is power, and one of them is condition damage.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Vipers has both of those as major stats.
I mean, there's also crit damage.
Which is why Berserkers is the other one that people use. Basically, if you're dealing all of your damage straight up, you want Berserkers. And if you're doing any appreciable amount of condition damage, you want Vipers. Unless you're doing all condition damage somehow, which you're probably not.
You're not. Even like the ridiculous Scourge thing people were doing with new Necromancer are using Vipers.
I feel like Path of Fire is really well designed so far, and I look forward to actually, starting the content proper.
It is really good. I really enjoy it.
I guess we should probably move on to the next thing on the list. This week has been, at least for me, a lot of Iron Banner. This has been the first week of the new Iron Banner, and they made a significant number of changes in Destiny 2 to the way the Iron Banner thing works. Thalen, did you ever participate in Iron Banner?
Nope.
Okay. So Iron Banner is a PvP tournament, and in Destiny 1, it had the weird designation of being unsynced. So, like, when you go into Crucible normally, you have your stats normalized to where everyone has exactly the same base stats, essentially. Like, it's designed to make it to where level differences and, power levels are roughly the same, so it's just skill versus skill. And Iron Banner in Destiny 1 was unsynced, so you could have a power difference and it made some bit of difference. I never really noticed much of it. Like, I was never far enough behind that it was a big deal, but it wasn't super noticeable to me. For whatever reason, they decided to take that aspect away, and now Iron Banner is also a synced event. And this is probably good in the long run, but it also kind of decimates all the lore of Iron Banner from Destiny 1. Because there's a lot of talk about how, it was a much more brutal tournament than, the one that Lord Shaxx has in the Crucible, and that, Saladin was a stickler for the old ways. But basically all that is out the door, and is just flavor. There used to be bounties, and you do the bounties, and that was basically, the event, other than hoping for random drops at the end of matches. Like everything else in Destiny 2, they've shifted things to a token system to where tokens drop into your shared inventory, and then you turn your tokens in, and every 20 tokens you get a loot package. And you get one piece of Iron Banner specific gear, and then one other random piece of gear from a secondary loot table. And for the most part, all faction packages work that way. You get like one item that's specific to that person, and then one item that can come from another set of items. So far, I've turned in, I think, 20 faction packages, and I've picked up all but 2 of the weapons, and I have a full set of armor minus the class item on the Titan. It's been really enjoyable, but the only weird thing about it is like basically just Crucible. It doesn't feel as different as it did in Destiny 1. It's just like a limited time playlist of Crucible. The only other kind of complaint that I have is in Destiny 1, the main reason why I did Iron Banner was it was kind of a good way to shoot your power level up, in that it would drop gear at the highest available power that you could get at the time. And that was a way that I a lot of times used it to kind of level things up. This time around, it's dropping gear at I don't know, roughly 5 levels below what your current light level is, which is the way a lot of gear drops in Destiny 2. So it's mostly about chasing the drops and not about improving your character overall, which is kind of disappointing. I am hoping they do something with the progression system. Just, it feels like they're artificially throttling it to try and keep players from capping out before like the PC players have. They announced when the Prestige Raid goes live, they're not increasing the light level yet. Power level, whatever. I'm going to always probably call it light level. So it feels like they're wanting to wait until after the PC launch before they do any of that. I kind of find it weird how that whole thing's going to work. Like right now, the console is on a schedule that's weeks ahead of where the PC's at, and I don't know if they're going to maintain like a separate schedule of releases for the PC, or so that it's always going to be behind, or if they're going to, I don't know, just skip ahead and the few things that have unlocked already for the console will just be unlocked when the PC happens.
I'm curious long term if they're going to sink into the same sort of thing Warframe has going on.
Yeah, but that's been a bad thing of having 2 different release cycles.
But they can't help it because they have to submit things for console cert, and they can just do that themselves on PC.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, so like the Warframe makes sense for that reason, but it's...
I get that Activision is a much larger company and can probably just go, hey, put this up now and have it happen.
Well, I guess what I mean is like right now it's looking like it's going to be backwards from Warframe, to where the console is a full month ahead of the PC at launch. So I don't know, like, are they going to time things in a way that basically the PC players just lost the first month and they're just going to pick right back up, and they'll get another faction rally when the new faction rally comes around, and they'll get Iron Banner in another month when it rolls around, and that potentially the raid will already be unlocked since it's unlocked on the console. I don't know, like I have questions as to how this split release schedule thing is going to maybe work, and potentially they're going to answer a lot of questions at TwitchCon, which is on the 20th, and the PC release of Destiny 2 is the 24th. They're also supposedly going to talk about season, and like clan experience. When you look at it, it says clan experience for this season. When I completed one of the achievements in Iron Banner, it said for this season. And there's a ton of rumors floating around about what seasons might mean, but I definitely know for certain that clan experience will drop back down to level 1, and the clan will re-level each season. And supposedly the perks that you get from the clan banner are going to be different each season.
I'm having a very hard time reading that as a good thing.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. So far, the clan banner perks have been negligible. Like, I am sure they literally do what they say they're going to do, but the other night we had a strike group with 3 people in the clan, and we were running another item you can get that increases, drop chances, and the banner rank 6 perk says increase drop chances, and we didn't really see any noticeable difference. We maybe got 1 extra legendary Ingram from the night, so it doesn't feel like the clan thing really, like the clan Ingrams from people doing activities are really nice. Those are awesome. Like the fact that every member of a clan gets a raid Ingram once a week if at least 2 members of the clan participate in a raid.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's badass. It's really awesome. Like, so
also hear that those weren't intended to drop at level 10.
No, they absolutely dropped a level 300 raid weapon, which once I put a mod on it went up to 305, which is the current cap. Like, this was the first week that they dropped at appropriate levels. So like Crucible, for example,
dropping at level 10 was funny, but maybe not great.
I thought it was. I mean, the eye level 10 thing was a perfectly reasonable compromise to me. Like, okay, you have to infuse this up, but now you also get access to these weapons. I didn't think that was a big deal. I mean, I've got raid weapons as a result, and I've not done the raid. I have Trials weapons, and I've not done Trials of the 9. But, so, for example, there's a Crucible Ingram, and so long as you go into the Crucible with 2 people in a fire team from the same clan, and win a match, all you have to do is win 1 match, it will unlock a free Ingram for every single person in the clan.
This might be the thing I have heard about Destiny 2 that sells me more than anything else I've heard so far.
Like
I can play with people who play way more than I do and not fall egregiously behind.
Well,
I can catch up to my raider friends.
It's really cool because, so I've not done the raid at all, but I was absolutely cheering them on when they were raiding, as they were progressing. And yeah, I mean, I would have cheered them on anyway, but everyone had a stake in them winning the raid. Because the second they started clearing the raid, everyone that's been sitting on the sidelines starts reaping the benefit of it every week. Similar, if one person, or if a team of at least 2 people from the clan do the Nightfall, then everybody gets Nightfall reward. And when you open the Ingram, it's I think 2 pieces of gear that are Nightfall level rewards. So that's probably my favorite thing about the clan system, is just that going out and doing stuff gives everybody some rewards from it. I kind of wish they had done one so me grinding the hell out of Iron Banner, also gave people some Iron Banner rewards, but they have very specific things that give rewards. It's basically there's a Crucible one, there's a Nightfall one, there's a Raid one, and there's a Trials one. But it actually has me kind of wanting to build a Trials team to see if I can manage to get 7 wins.
I regret to inform you that I'm not going to be helping you win any of those.
That's the thing that just shocks me this time around is I am playing the hell out of Crucible. I always played Crucible at least a little bit, but I'm playing a lot of Crucible. I was trying to find my total time played, but I'm not seeing it. But it's been a significant number of time doing Crucible, which I don't understand how that PvP mode I find enjoyable when most of the time I don't find it at all enjoyable. Because at first I wasn't sure what I thought of the 4v4 Crucible instead of the 6v6 Crucible from Destiny 1. But all in all, I like it. I mean,
so what are the game modes for that?
So there's control, which is kind of it's not capture the flag, but it's capture the point. So you have 3 points on the map.
Points that you must hold.
Yeah, 3 points that you must hold. You gain additional points per kill if you're holding 2 of them. So it's a weird mixture of capping points and holding points and also killing players, and together it becomes a cumulative score. So you either need to have the most points at the end of, I think, 8 minutes, which is the match length, or the first person that hits 100 points wins. There's a mode called Supremacy, which I did not like in Destiny 1, but it's probably my favorite mode in Destiny 2. Every time you kill somebody, there is a orb that drops on the ground. It basically looks like an engram. And killing the player doesn't score you anything. Retrieving the engram that they drop scores a point. So, like, your enemy drops red ones, and when you die, you drop blue ones. And you can recover, like, your own team's ones that when somebody dies to basically prevent the other team from getting a point. So it's a weird dynamic, because like the instinct is to run out and cover the points as fast as you can to get them. But if you die in the process, you're still giving up points. So, I think that my favorite thing about that is you can see where the orbs are through the rest of the map. So you know kind of where the flashpoints are that are going on. So you can kind of use that to your advantage as you work your way through the map to figure out a good way to get back to those orbs, but at the same time take people out in the process. There's Clash, which is just kind of a generic deathmatch mode, and I think there are some other modes that they call competitive modes that I really don't like, because they're basically best of 7 matches, so they take forever. But there's I don't even remember the name of the mode, but basically it's a plant the bomb mode, where there are 2 objectives on the map where bombs can be planted, and you either take out all the team members, or you plant a bomb, or you defuse a bomb. And all of those basically are win conditions for that map.
Oh, it's Counter-Strike mode.
Yeah, there you go. That is a thing. That is a mode. I like the mode itself. I do not like the fact that it's best of 7.
I mean,
because it takes forever.
You only have a single life, right?
You only have a single life. So yeah, it's a lot like Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
There's another variant of that to where it's more of a deathmatchy variant, but you have a fixed number of respawns for a team, and anyone that dies and resurrects is taking 1 away from your total respawn total. So I think you start off with like 8 respawn. So if you have one player that is significantly less skilled, they're going to keep running in and dying and depleting all of your respawns. So
it's like the game mode for total toxicity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. That for the most part, like, I don't play the competitive maps because they take so much more time.
They don't let you farm as fast.
Yeah, pretty much.
Bella's all about the farming speed.
Also, people don't really play them. Like, they take forever to get a map. And I think for the most part, everybody does 2 per character, because there's a quest chain that says go do 2 random Crucible maps, and that's the quick play maps, and then go do 2 competitives. And I've done, I think, 6 competitives at this point, 2 per character. But those are the map types that are played in Trials as well. So
what are Trials?
So Trials of Osiris was in Destiny 1, and it's like the serious PvP mode. This time it's called Trials of the Nine, and basically you have a card that you get, and there are 7 wins on it and 3 losses. And whichever you get to first either bounces you out of the tournament or unlocks the ability to go to this new social space where they give you rewards. So
is it not still the lighthouse?
It's not the lighthouse. It's everything here is 9 related, which the 9 are these enigmatic. We don't know what the hell they are. Zur is
an agent of the 9, so that's the only interaction I have with that name.
Right, and we still don't know a lot, other than the fact that this place that you go is really freaking crazy.
You're giving me concerns.
I mean, there's lots of lore. Like, every one of the items that comes from the trials has lore on it. It's just, like, they're purposefully being enigmatic about what the 9 are.
I mean, my expectation is that we've been gathering all this stuff for them all this time, and they're evil.
Potentially. Like, but anyway, so yeah, the whole goal is to win 7 matches before you get 3 losses, and then if you go perfect, you get additional special rewards, and you can go to an area that, like, only people who've gotten perfect cards can go to.
The land of the Epine.
The toxicity thing, though, like, is really not existent because nobody ever joins voice chat. So, like, I mean, you tend to do trials with people you know. It's not the sort of thing that you're really random into. I mean, there's the option to join Fireteam voice chat, but I've never done it. And I don't really know anyone that's ever done it.
I mean, is Destiny 2's voice chat any better quality than Destiny's? Because
no,
the friends that I've played Destiny with, like, the first few times we used Destiny's in-game chat, and we had, A, the quality was crap, and B, we had all sorts of problems with, like, one of us would be able to hear the other two, another would only be able to hear one person, and then the other would only be able to hear the other person. But if you just used, like, the PlayStation 4's chat, like the general chat thing, it was great. So we just used that.
Right. I have never really used in-game Fireteam chat in Destiny. I have always used PlayStation 4 party chat. And honestly, like, on the PC, it's going to be just as bad. So it'll be TeamSpeak or Discord or something like that people will use. Bungie's chat is not the best in the world. But anyway, that's Trials. That's the serious PvP mode. And I have never participated at all because I've never had a team. Basically, you need a team of 4 players to do Trials. But I may be able to convince somebody to play.
I mean, I like competitive PvP and shooting games.
I really like the way PvP feels in this game. Like, there's a whole meta cycle with the weapons that feels good this time. I don't know. Like, I don't want to go into that whole discussion much, but it feels like there's clear counters to almost every single weapon. Like, there are high rotation weapons that you see a lot, and there is a counter to every single one of them. Like, there's either a way that you can play to counter it, or a specific weapon that you can use to counter it. And mostly it's the fact that there's like a breadth of different archetypes that are all viable right now. And I like that. It doesn't feel like any one weapon type is at a severe disadvantage. I mean, like, the first few weeks, everybody was playing with Mida multi-tool multi-tool, the scout rifle. And I think everybody was playing with it because it's, for the most part, the same weapon that they were playing with in Destiny 1. Like, they were familiar with this weapon. But in the additional weeks since, like, the first Trials, I've noticed the meta in the PvP widening a lot. Like, there's a lot of variety in weapons that I'm seeing. And what I mean by this is, like, every time you get killed in the Crucible, it tells you what weapon the person was using. So I am seeing a wide number of weapons, whereas it used to always be Mida. So I think that's healthy. Like, we're starting to see a lot of branching out in weapons. All of this is discussion I never thought I would actually be caring about in a game, but apparently I like Crucible.
I mean, even people who describe themselves as being generally allergic to PvP, like myself, can get into it if the system is open enough, and I guess I don't want to say forgiving enough, but
Not punitive.
yeah.
So that I guess that's the big thing that I haven't talked about in the Iron Banner is in Destiny 1, it felt lousy because the only way you gained rank and then the rank unlocked additional rewards was through winning matches. So you could hit a bad streak where you just lost a bunch of matches in a row and you made zero progress. Because of the way that they did the token system, like, win or lose, you're going to get some progress. Like, you either get 5 tokens for a win or 2 tokens for a loss. So, yes, there's a clear benefit to winning, but you can still have bad matches and still feel like you're making some forward momentum, which I think more than anything, that's the best change that they've made to a lot of these things. Like, you get Crucible tokens, and you get more for winning than you do for losing, but you still get some for losing. Like, so you're still constantly making a little bit of progress forward. But anyway, that was probably more in the weeds than we needed it to be. So Dragon Quest Heroes 2.
I mean, it's a sequel to Dragon Quest Heroes 1.
It's a Dynasty Warriors type game using characters from various Dragon Quest games. Like a few, the main characters are unique to this game. And then, like with a lot of these games, for reasons, various characters from previous Dragon Quest games are finding themselves transported from their worlds to this new world where they don't know where they are. And, oh, here's some dudes running around being heroes. I guess I'll hang out with them.
Yay, heroes?
Yeah.
I mean, it basically works out. The first game I played, and I wasn't terribly thrilled with it. I've mentioned that Dynasty Warriors games are mostly interesting in their tactics layer, and the first game replaced the tactics layer with tower defense. So if you like tower defense, that was good, I guess, but I'm not the biggest fan.
That sounds... No.
Like I said, it was not my favorite game ever. The sequel instead purports to be more of an action RPG.
Yeah, like it feels pretty similar to like Kingdom Hearts in a lot of ways, but with a lot more enemies on the ground. Because in a Warriors game, it's very important that you be able to like get into combos in like the 300-400s.
There's a trophy for hitting 350.
Yep, I just got that today.
I got that in a rather degenerate way.
It's really easy to get once you've got the dancer, Mina. I can never remember which of the twins is the dancer and which is the oracle. But yeah, like she has some things that you can unlock that make increasing combos with her easier. Like her play is very centered around getting up to absurd combos and just kind of flying around the battlefield as a whirly, fiery, fan-wielding dervish of death and destruction.
She was in the first game and playing basically the same way. So
yeah. Her sister is also in this game and is pretty powerful so far.
She's the one with the bubbles, right?
No, she has cards.
Ah, right.
And so her light attack throws cards that are a ranged attack and mark enemies that they hit and do some knockback. And her heavy attack calls down like pillars of light that hit everything that's marked and knocks them down.
These are reasonably good skill sets for a Warriors game. I recently made my hero a thief and discovered that the whip also has an amazing skill set.
I need to try the whip. I used the bow while I was running thief, and it's okay.
I found the bow okay. I was not a big fan. But I never really liked bows in Warriors games.
I felt like something that only hit one dude at a time like that really needed to hit harder than it was.
That's why I don't like bows in Warriors games.
Yeah, because there's plenty of other stuff that I could be doing that will hit a whole group of dudes for just as much damage as that bow is doing. But yeah, so it also, I don't know if Warriors game do this at all in general, as a general thing, but it kind of has the vocation change aspect.
It's definitely a Dragon Quest thing.
Yeah, from later Dragon Quest games, where you start out as a warrior, but then you can become a thief or a priest or a mage or something else. and each of the vocations has stuff to unlock that is specific to that vocation, and also a set of buffs that apply no matter what vocation you're in on that character. So I've been rotating through them, getting them all up to level 12 to be able to unlock the first set of those.
You're thinking this sounds like FF5. You're mostly right, except Dragon Warrior 3 came out way, way before FF5 did.
Mm-hmm.
What platforms is this on?
PS4 and PC, as far as I know.
Those are the only ones I'm aware of.
I've been playing it on PS4.
I've been playing it on PC. It's a remarkably good port. I am playing with a controller, of course. I don't know how good it would be with keyboard. Probably not. Koei Tecmo has not been great about keyboard and mouse support for their ports. I mean, that said, the Steam reviews are mostly pretty good, and generally people get really salty about bad keyboard mouse controls, so they might actually be decent.
Huh. That would be a surprise. I returned Samurai Warriors 4 because it had non-functional keyboard and controller controls.
Oh, ugh. But yeah, for me, this is a genre of game that I've always kind of wanted to try out, and Dragon Quest is awesome and amazing, and I love it. So yeah, of course.
This is definitely one of the better Warriors games.
As good as the Zelda one?
I think so. The Zelda one is more traditional, whereas this one is more takes the Warriors formula and makes it into an action RPG.
Yeah.
Well, later this month, if you want a more traditional one, Fire Emblem Warriors looks like it's coming out on the 20th or something like that.
More traditional one?
As in, the focus is on strategy battles and things like that.
Huh.
Like, this has had a couple of battles where you've got a whole bunch of NPCs on the field that you kind of have to protect and guide to a degree. But mostly, it's your party of 4 dudes running around just beating up enemies.
For the most part, the thing about Warriors games is that you are the most powerful force on the battlefield. So choosing where to apply this is kind of important. But you have, an allied army that is doing things, and sometimes they need your help.
This makes me feel like I fundamentally did not understand that series when I played it like a decade ago.
It's likely I didn't either.
Because my experience with it was, I kill a whole bunch of people on my own in a battlefield with some weird, questionably useful NPCs nearby, and then it tells me I lose.
That definitely happened to me even in Dragon Quest Heroes.
Yep. A couple of times.
Were you just not protecting the right people?
That's correct.
Pretty much. It's like the first combat where you really run into this, like you've got the king and his bodyguard, and then 2 forces going down 2 different branches.
You need to clear both of those branches.
Yeah, you need to clear both of those branches fast before those 2 forces all get murdered. Because, I mean, my first time, I took out all of the little monsters, but then it was the king and the other side's big bad dude and me, and yeah, it wasn't viable.
That was similar to my experience in that fight the first time I did it.
It also didn't help that I accidentally went into that fight the first time with 1 person in my party.
Oops.
I didn't realize that if you talk to the person in the inn that lets you change your party out, it removes everybody from your party immediately, and then you have to pick your new party.
This sounds like Final Fantasy Tactics, in which I took Dismiss a little bit less heavily than I should have.
Yeah, at least they're not gone forever.
Dismiss, they're gonna go away for now, because I was looking at them. No. Dismiss, please leave and never return. Whoops.
That would be unfortunate. That would be really unfortunate.
I did eventually get another ninja.
I don't know, I've been inspired to pick up War of the Lions again, thanks to certain events. I hadn't even done the raid in FF14 yet, but the theme is Return to Evilis.
Is the final boss Evil Jesus?
I don't know yet.
At least you know who to blame.
Sigh. No, Belle, you are not allowed to call this episode Blame Yourself for God.
Okay, Shadespire.
Oh, man. So, I've been reading up on this.
Now, is this an event, or
No.
is this a new product?
This is a new product. So, okay, Games Workshop is under new management.
So you remember when they blew up
Hooray!
the world?
Yeah, Games Workshop is under new management, and near as I can tell, this has been an unequivocally good thing. One of the things that has come out, because, like, in a desperate bid to remain relevant, what Games Workshop did just prior to being under new management was Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar took Warhammer Fantasy, blew the whole thing up, and replaced it with
something non-functional.
Yes. Yeah. And more importantly, something that's non-functional not just mechanically, but narratively as well.
Like, it kind of feels like they were like, we're narrative, nobody cares about narrative. They just want to be able to bang models together. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And, no.
And, like, as I have discovered, and I have come down very heavily on Warhammer and Games Workshop writing in the past, because their writing is not necessarily very good. It can be, but...
There's a wide range of quality.
Yes. And as it turns out, I have read a lot of the really bad quality stuff, and almost none of the good quality stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it basically ranges between incredibly pulp, but awesome, and just utterly terrible.
Yeah. And genuinely funny in a very British sort of way.
Yes.
When it's not taking itself too seriously, which it does a little bit too often.
I really feel like that was a good bit of Games Workshop's problem for many years, was they started taking themselves and their setting too damn seriously.
Yeah.
And it was not designed to be taken seriously.
And, like, now that they have this setting where people are taking it seriously and are writing, they're, like, using it seriously, like, they're making some really pointed political commentary, and I find that real weird to read in, like, codexes, but here we are. Anyway, neither here nor there, Games Workshop is under new management, and one of the things that they are resurrecting, by which I mean actively staffing and supporting and promise to continue supporting, we'll see how well that goes, is their what used to be the specialty games, which are, like, things that come in boxed sets that are, like, connected to their big properties but aren't the game for the big properties.
Space Hulk Talisman.
Exactly. Yeah. So Shadespire is Mordheim.
Shadespire is
Mordheim. Sweet.
And by Shadespire is Mordheim, I mean Mordheim was the skirmish level fantasy game. Shadespire is that. It is a skirmish level fantasy game played on a hex grid with a deck building component.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
And that seems interesting. And people played it at Gen Con, and almost everywhere I've seen anybody talk about having played it at Gen Con, they're super excited about it. And so that's interesting. I like the idea of a hex-based deck building miniature skirmish game. Like, I played what's this called? The PC game. Oh, I don't remember what it's called. The game that was also a grid-based skirmish deck building game. Anyway.
It's coming to me, sorry.
It had, like, Kodra played it a bit too.
Which one?
I don't remember the name, that's the problem.
No, but what is it? It's a deck building skirmish game?
Yeah, it was, you summoned creatures onto
Oxnora?
the plane. What?
Oxnora? That is not a recent game.
No. This was like, it was a PC
Duelist?
title. Duelist, yes.
Ah, okay.
Like, I enjoyed Duelist. It was interesting.
Yeah.
And this looks like a physical version of Duelist.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
So, I'm interested to see where it goes. The core set just came out, or is coming out, like, in the next week. Something like, or like came out today maybe. Very soon, if it's not already just released. The starter set comes with, like, knight dudes in their new Sigmar armor or whatever, and Khorne berserker type dudes, and they're coming out with the orcs and undead factions that are already announced and I think have release dates. But it's kind of neat. It's sort of neat to see. I'll be interested in giving it a shot, just because Games Workshop has always been, even when their mainline games haven't been great, like Space Hulk was always awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And the various things they've released, like, people were really excited about that, and they're really excited about Necromunda. So I'm gonna be interested in giving it a shot, taking a look at what it's doing.
So by undead, do you mean the Tomb Kings?
This is mostly skeletons.
Okay, because I was under the impression that they basically like threw the Tomb Kings in the same hole that they put the squats in.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
I mean, so funny
the
story.
army they just released for Age of Sigmar, I wouldn't be that surprised if Squats came back.
The new Age of Sigmar army, the like techno dwarves are awesome looking.
Like, I've seen some images. And
I'm waiting for somebody to just be like, F it, I'm going to play 40k with these guys. Because it's not, I mean, it would be completely easy to do. You want to play Space Dwarves? You can play Space Dwarves. Those guys look sweet. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they come up with. I've also been playing, because it's such a lightweight game, I've been playing a whole bunch of 40k and watching with interest as they release a new codex like every other week.
They kind of have a lot of them to go.
They do. And
yeah.
What's been interesting is like they have a lot of them to go, and the classic Games Workshop thing has been, it takes them so long to get each one out that it's a new edition by the time you get yours, maybe.
If you get one at all.
If you get one at all for an edition. So like there's a whole bunch of people who have gotten new rules for their minis for the first time in like a decade. And it's really funny reading people's commentary, because they're like, I keep getting housed by, I keep getting wrecked by orcs, or I keep losing to like Inquisition or Sisters of Battle or something. Just like these perennially underloved factions have all gotten updates, and many of them are quite good.
I was about to say, Sisters of Battle went without a codex forever.
They're like the only faction with metal minis still.
Mm-hmm.
Which also means if you want to play Sisters of Battle, you are going to pay a stupidly huge amount of money.
Look, Sisters of Battle players are super dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been interesting to play. I had some friends of mine that I got into Infinity some time back decided to return the favor. And so for my birthday, they got me some Guard.
Oh God!
Because they're like,
Egg.
We hear you've been playing 40k, but we know you, and we bet you're playing some tiny hyper elite army, because that's what you always do. They're not wrong. So like, you should get proper swarmy up in here. We're sending you some Guard.
You should play these poor bastards.
These 10 people equal this one guy.
10. 10 seems low.
It's very funny because I play Orc, and like, Orcs are looking at them like, man, you guys are swarmy.
Yeah. Nids are like, man, there's a lot of you guys.
On the other hand, Ig have tanks.
It's true. And
they have all the tanks.
And like a plethora of different assault weapon crews.
Yeah. Well, it's been sort of it was interesting because like the Imperial Guard Codex just came out recently. They've gone through Space Marines, which is the totally unsurprising first codex, and then I want to say Chaos, Death Guard, Grey Knights, Adeptus Mechanicus, and and Imperial Guard, with the next two being Tyranids and Craftworld Eldar, if I remember my release schedule right.
Wait, so there's not a Craftworld Eldar codex yet?
Not yet. It was not the first one they made.
That's wild. Like, they're usually in the first round.
Yep. No, Grey Knights and Adeptus Mechanicus got codexes before Eldar did. I mean, Eldar still hasn't gotten there.
The fact that Grey Knights have their own codex is just so bizarre.
Yeah.
They've always been a footnote in the back of a book.
So
they
like,
have their own.
They have
their own model
MIB.
line. Yeah, they're the like. Did you want more swords and magic in your Space Marines?
Do you want to play Chaos Marines, but do you want to be the good guys?
Basically, yeah. And they admittedly have some really cool minis.
Grey Knights were like always my favorite little fetish army, but they were super expensive.
They're like fancy plastic kits now. But yeah, they got an army. And of the what I find interesting is, they're on their like 6th or 7th codex release now, and pretty much nobody's super unhappy with them.
That's amazing.
With one exception, people aren't super happy about Adeptus Mechanicus. It's good and it does a bunch of interesting things, and it's still a perfectly functional force. It's just they were hoping for at least one release to accompany the book, and they didn't get it. Adeptus Mechanicus doesn't have any transports. And so it's kind of like...
They can't just use rhinos?
No. Yeah, they, for whatever reason, they make all of these tanks for other people, but can't ride in them themselves. I don't know. That's the thing that people are annoyed about, is like, why can't I just take a rhino?
Or a chimera.
Yeah.
They seem odd.
Like they make all these things. There's multiple troop carriers they create.
Yep, but they won't ride in them.
They don't know how to drive them.
So yeah, there's that bit that kind
It might
of annoys
insult
people.
the machine spirits if they tried to drive them.
Who knows? Although they're really interesting. Reading that, I flipped through and read the background of that codex, and it kind of made the setting make more sense to me. I never understood why humanity in 40K is this like creepily hyper-religious thing. And then I read about AdMech, and they're the caretakers of all of the old technology and computers and robots, but they don't know how any of them work. They just have, all they have are the comments in the code.
Pretty much. Yeah, like the 40K Imperium's technology, like their technological history, has a lot in common with Dune. Bad shit happened with AI, so no more of that.
Yeah.
Plus, people have forgotten how any of this stuff worked to begin with.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, having seen just people using computers, I can understand how, without anybody who knows what's going on, you would develop these like weird religions about how to make your computer function.
Yep.
And that's just going to perpetuate itself because nobody's there to say, no, actually it works this way. Like, no, you don't need to light votive candles to get the computer to, reboot.
Yeah, you have to do these things in this order. And
yeah.
That makes perfect sense. But then the people don't know why. And then nobody knows why. Just that's the ritual you go through.
I mean, like every time I go out and talk to customers, I encounter these urban legends of how this software works or how this package works.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's perfectly obvious to me that this is the thing that happens. In the absence of information, you make it up.
Yeah, it's really not that far from jokes about having to hold your mouth right and phases of the moon.
Yeah.
I have to be very careful when I joke about things because people will take it verbatim.
Yeah. And like it's just and it's sort of interesting seeing that it gives me a different lens to look at the whole setting from, because it's like, oh, well, yeah, I understand why they like pray to their tanks all the time, because I don't know how their tanks work. And it's made even worse by the fact that they don't even really build them. It's these like automated factories that build them.
Yep.
That are just, they're the caretakers of. They're the people, making sure the machines don't break down at the car factory, but they have no idea how any of them work. They just hope they don't ever stop working.
And there's explicit rules against trying to figure out how any of that works, or God forbid, trying to make anything new.
Because that's heresy.
So that's what makes the Primaris kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are Primaris new tech?
Yes, sort of. I mean, the answer is yes, they're new tech. In universe, they're like a project that had been going on for a really long time that no one knew about.
I mean, as long as they can, explain it as we totally rediscovered old tech. Really, this isn't new. This is something old we rediscovered. Really.
Well, I mean, that's the sort of fascinating thing that the other piece of the the Imperial Guard book goes into this a lot more, and I kind of appreciate that it does. Where like, sure, people spread across the galaxy, and then bad things happened with AI, and we shut it all down. But it meant that we didn't have communications across the galaxy, and so every so often we'll rediscover some world that we colonized, 1,000 years ago, and they'll have some piece of technology that used to be part of the catalog of humanity, but has been forgotten about. I don't know why they don't do that more often, but
well, they used to introduce new Imperial Guard worlds all the frickin' time.
Yeah.
And then that would create interesting army lists based off of those new guard units that were now available.
That's the thing that they're doing in the codexes that I think is really cool is the Adeptus Mechanicus has here are a whole bunch of Forge worlds. You can choose which Forge world your people are from, and they'll have special rules based on the Forge world. And like this is just a passive bonus that you get for choosing that Forge world. And you can, if you choose a world that's not one of these, you can pick which one of these worlds bonuses you want. You know, same with Space Marine chapters and Imperial Guard legions, and and it's kind of interesting, you know. Cadian troops have slightly different orders than Mordian troops. I still think that "Did you want an army of Rambo" is a little silly.
It is.
Where they're so swole they don't need to wear body armor.
I mean, presumably we're gonna run out of Cadian troops soon.
I mean, I don't know. In the I can't believe they're actually moving the narrative of the universe forward. They did blow up Cadia.
Yeah, they blew it up real good.
Yeah.
What's the Norse themed world?
The one that Space Wolves pull from?
I don't know. There's an Imperial Guard unit that's basically like Cossacks.
Oh yeah, they're like the Vostrians, I think. At least if I'm thinking about thinking about the same one you are in the new book. There's probably some other one that was like that too, as well.
I mean, the Valhallans.
There you go. That's who I'm talking about.
Yeah, they're very Ruski. They have their fur hats.
They have some occasionally hilarious rules interactions. Like it's interesting. There's a lot of surprisingly fun and like narratively sensible things that you can do that seem really powerful, but when you play them out on the game, they're not. It's like they're powerful and they're fun, but they're not like overwhelming mostly. One of the things that they did with the Imperial Guard Codex is tone down conscripts because that was a problem.
Do they still have the Penitent Legion?
Probably.
They were basically prisoners with bombs that were forced to fight.
I think they got rid of that one.
Okay.
They decided to be a little bit less messed up than that. They're honestly like for as grim as the Imperial Guard are, they actually don't really get into. They don't really like portray them as super downer in the new codex.
So they don't have the route rule tables and things like that?
Nope.
Okay, so back in the day with Imperial Guard, they had route rules, and if your army started to split, your commissar could shoot one of your models, sacrificing it, and bring the unit back into line.
Okay, that is still a thing.
The current rule is that
that's not ever going away.
It's called summary execution.
You can only ever lose one guard to a morale test if you have a commissar.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
still a thing.
That's still a thing. It's still jacked up.
It's pretty jacked up. But you can also play guard that don't do that. Like you can play Imperial Guard. That isn't like I guess you have to do this to play Imperial Guard. Like and what I think is really cool is that so far the codex has been flexible. It's like, oh, I really don't like that, or I'm not a big fan of that unit, or I don't like this piece of this thing. You don't have to use it. And everything that I've seen so far is flexible enough that you're like, you know, I don't like commissars. I don't like that whole interaction. It kind of squicks me out, but I don't have to interact with it to play guard. And I'm not shooting myself in the foot in so doing.
Well, or you can bring the best commissar.
What?
Caiaphas Cain, hero of the Imperium.
Out of curiosity, does he have a stat line?
No, sadly.
I mean, I don't think he has an official stat line anymore. He used to. They did come up with one for him. He does not shoot people because that would mean fewer people in between him and the enemy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like the.
But there is also, other support in the fiction for commissars who, aren't horrible murderous assholes.
Yeah, and they actually make a pretty good point of mentioning those, which I think is interesting. Like, I was sort of weirded out by the Space Marine Codex, which is a little bit too taking itself seriously, but most of the other ones aren't so much, which I think is good.
I think Space Marine players take themselves too seriously.
I
That's
mean,
part of the problem.
That may be the case.
IG players tend to really embrace the absurdity of it all.
It feels like it would be hard not to.
It's like, I am throwing a whole shitload of dudes in t-shirts and flashlights against slavering xenomorphs. Why not?
There's a...
I mean, at a certain point, the lasgun is no less effective than anything else.
It's true.
The humble lasgun. Oh god, what a garbage weapon.
I mean, if you hit something with enough lasguns, they will eventually have an effect.
Maybe.
They might annoy it, if nothing else.
But yeah, it's been interesting to play, and it's been sort of interesting watching as new things get introduced to our group as we've played. Our tactics and overall meta has evolved. Because like I remember the first time Kodra put down orcs on the table, we're just like, what do we even do against this? Oh god, we just die.
I mean, that's a pretty reasonable result in your first encounter with orcs.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's officially humanity's result in their first big encounter with orcs.
It's true. And then it was like, recently I was playing Death Guard, which is a surprise to everyone I talk to who knows me, as well as kind of myself, because they're so far out of my usual wheelhouse.
They're the opposite of everything you play.
Yeah, they're the opposite of everything I normally play.
I feel like Nurgle troops are like some of the more interesting.
They're pretty interesting, and they're really silly. Like this edition, like all of their new sculpts, in addition to being super gross, are also really silly in weird ways.
Yep, but like Nurglings always have been.
Yeah,
like, that's always been a thing.
Like pretty much every box of Nurgle anything that comes out lately has at least one silly looking blobby imp somewhere on the sprue that's just like openly,
just kind of hanging out
or like doing something stupid and just openly undermining the whatever seriousness you are trying to accomplish there, which is really funny. Like,
Nurgle's a friendly guy.
Yeah, like
he's cheerful.
They are the agents of chaos, even amongst themselves.
There's one dude that I put together, and I've been avoiding like the ultra super gross bits because I'm trying to downplay that at least a little bit in the Nurgle stuff, because it kind of gets like into extremely off-putting body horror depending on how you put the stuff together. But there was one that I couldn't avoid because the alternative was some weird mouth stomach thing where it's this like big mouth and tongue in the stomach, which is kind of strange. But it was just like the normal armor, but it had a crack in it, like a big open crack. And out of the crack is peeking out this like grinning Nurgling. And it's just like this otherwise super serious looking guy and this like grinning silly blobby imp like peeking out from his armor or like under his shoulder. Like, what are you doing?
So have they released like actual legit Nurgle Rhino models and things like that?
I haven't seen any. Like, there's plenty of third party people who do that, but it's always it's playing up the gross more than the like rusted and decayed. I don't know. I put together a Rhino today, and I used all of the Nurgling, all the like spare Nurglings I had on sprues, and so it's basically the party bus. That's just like, I put a bunch of random, cloth scraps on it and other things to just like mess it up slightly. And then there's like a Nurgling dance party on the roof of this thing as it trundles down the battlefield. It's really funny looking.
That's beautiful.
One of the sprues that I saw that I have and used on this is again, you have to remember, little blobby imps. They're like, I don't know of a good comparison. They're not even necessarily gross. They're just blobby little imps, and they're all grinning. This one it's got its like little arm appendages on its hips and has like one leg out and is wearing a Chaos Marine helmet. So it's incredibly silly looking. And I have it like in the command deck of the tank, just like looking out. It's incredible. Like one of them's carrying a grenade, another one's got some scrolls. I don't know what he's doing with it. It's incredibly silly.
What Nurgling's always reminding me of is Gremlins from like the movie Gremlins.
Yes.
Yeah. But they're not furry. They don't have like a distinct shape. Admittedly, it makes me kind of want Nurgling swarms just because they're really funny. I don't know if they're any good. They're just funny looking. Little blobby dudes.
You just always buy Nurgling swarms and then put them on everything. Like put Nurglings on the bases with the other Marines. I don't know. Like Nurgling players were super devoted, but they were also like some of the least serious players, as in they're not taking it seriously. Now,
yeah,
like the hardcore Chaos players all play Khorne.
Oh God,
Skulls for the skull throne.
Yep.
Milk for the cornflakes. I have a very hard time taking Khorne seriously.
Yes. Well, it's really hard to take a lot of the game seriously, and I feel like the game is better for it.
Yeah.
Like,
I was about to say, I play orcs.
Yeah, and they're hilarious. You were putting together those flash kits recently, and every single one of those guys is hilarious.
There's not enough gun on them.
It is what happens when you forget to stop adding gun.
It's like orcs are hilarious. And like Eldar aren't very funny. Space Marines aren't very funny. I don't know that Necrons are super funny. They can be funny.
Necron Lords can be pretty funny sometimes.
Yeah. But like Guard are pretty funny in a super dark way, but
yeah.
But they're also like the most human of the factions.
Guard are always outmatched by everything.
Yeah.
But they keep on keeping on.
Yep, it's just like I'm a regular dude. Like I'm not even a regular dude. Like I'm a pretty badass dude. But I also live in this ridiculous universe. So I
have no power armor.
Yeah. But I did play my new guard against some Necrons yesterday or the other day, and it went pretty well. Mostly on the back of aircraft. It certainly wasn't on the strength of the individual cards. But yeah, like I said, it's been fun to play. It's I enjoy that it's a lightweight game, and I've enjoyed watching as more stuff gets added to it. I feel like it has stayed mostly balanced. I don't feel like there's a new thing that's just. It's not like each new codex is now this is the thing that wins, which is kind of classically the problem.
As long as they can keep it from devolving into Hero Hammer.
Well, that's the other thing is. Depending on what you're playing, outside of one particular character, you've kind of got to jump through some hoops to use. You don't actually want any Space Marine characters, or you can make a really good argument for not using Space Marine characters.
Who's the one exception?
Robot. I'm never gonna say his name right.
Robot Girly Man.
Robot Girly Man.
Okay.
Like. They're introducing.
I guess if we want that name pronounced correctly, you have to add more to do it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But like they did add, like they are adding Primarch models, which is the equivalent of having demigod tier minis wandering around in your force. But also they're all in a particular kind of hard to get at portion of your force organization. So it's not like you can just drop him in as your leader easily.
Oh, are they all Lords of War?
Yeah, they're all Lords of War. Like, Magnus is a Lord of War, Mortarion is a Lord of War, and Robot Girly Man is a Lord of War.
And I assume whenever the Eldar Codex comes out, like Mog and Ra and all of them will be Lords of War.
The Eldar ones are all still HQs, but they're also way less powerful.
Okay.
I also think that with one exception, they're all not necessary. There's a particular Eldar faction that you have to have led with it. You have to lead with a character model.
Harlequins.
No, Harlequins don't even have any character models. Or named character models. No, if you're playing Ynnari, which is like the umbrella all Eldar unified Eldar faction, that has to be led by one of the Inari characters. Or it doesn't have to be, but to get any of the bonuses, it has to be.
So it has to be.
So it pretty much has to be.
I mean, I will say, I feel like mine is the orc character is pretty awesome.
He's pretty awesome.
Is Gazgul Tharaka still around?
Yes.
That would be him, yes.
He's pretty great.
I'm just saying, like, that's the orc people knew.
Yep. No, he's still around. Still doing somebody a harm.
He is doing some serious beats.
I mean, there's another wall coming to Armageddon, isn't there?
He has the most unnecessarily good Wog. In that, so Wog is, you get to advance and charge, which is how orcs get across the map and kill people. He does that, but gets everyone another attack, which is not necessary. It is utterly overkill. I love it.
Yeah, it's been sort of funny, like, orc players lately are like, well, honestly, we've been taking just shootas on our boys and not choppas because, frankly, choppas are such overkill that it's unnecessary.
And shooters are a perfectly reasonable gun.
Yeah, but I'm amused by the, like, actually, maybe
They're self-nerfing.
Yeah, well, they're like maybe we don't need all of the. Maybe we could spread our DACA out a little bit. We don't need just all of it. But like, if you get charged by a bunch of orcs, it's really bad for you. But in keeping with the overall apparent balance of the game, like, orcs also have the, well, what do we do about the? You know, people are like, what do we do about just a unit of boys? Because that's really fairly hard to deal with. And in the meantime, orcs are like, so what do we do about planes? We don't really have a good answer to. I mean, they do have good answers to planes, but it means they're taking fewer boys.
What is their answers to planes other than potentially more planes?
Well, either more planes or tank busters.
Tank busters
those
aren't a
rocket
good
hammer
answer.
guys. Okay.
Yeah, tank busters are rocket hammer guys, but like, there's a variety. You have a variety of answers, but they all cost points, and they're usually not cheap. People actually really like kilocans, weirdly, because they can shoot planes down.
Hilariously.
But yeah, it's interesting. I read a bunch of the regimental standard, which is makes me laugh a lot. It's a Warhammer community site written as if they were like weekly pamphlets handed out to your average Imperial Guardsman, with such hilarious tips as if an orc tries to hit you, just disarm them and punch them in the face. It'll be fine. And there's a diagram. There's like a diagram of a guardsman just like casually disarming an orc and punching it in the face once, and it falls over. It's like that's not how that works.
That is so not going to work.
We have determined that 98% of battlefield injuries while wearing armor are a result of poor armor maintenance. Follow the following. Be sure to follow the and furthermore, our medics have been directed to deprioritize guardsmen who have taken injuries due to improper armor maintenance. In order to keep your armor well maintained, follow the following things. Keep your armor away from high velocity bullets. Do not expose your armor to sharp objects. Anyway, not taking the game seriously is the way to go, clearly. Also, my hands are covered in glue right now. I may have made an error. I thought that podcasting and doing some assembly would be a good idea, but now my hand is never leaving my mouse.
What are you gluing things together with? Super glue?
Yeah, super glue. I've been putting together an Imperial Knight.
Metal?
Oh no, plastic. Because I mean, who doesn't like giant mecha?
Yeah, I always use the I forget what they call it, the glue that basically melts the mini together.
Oh, they have. I like their plastic glue a whole lot. I'm just out of it, and I haven't been able to get any more.
Yeah, that was honestly my favorite thing about plastic kits. Basically, like, once you use that, you've fused it together. Life's good.
Yep.
If I use super glue, I used to always use I forget what it's called, but the stuff that makes it set up quickly.
Oh, the accelerant?
Yeah.
I try to avoid that stuff because it's caustic, but Every so often I'll have a piece where I'm just like, nope, I don't have the patience for this nonsense. I'm just going to spray it and be done.
Yeah, especially if it's an awkward pinning situation, you want it to set up quickly.
Yeah.
Well, given that it's almost midnight, I don't think we're going to get to our other topic for the night.
We'll come back to that probably.
Because if we unpack that can of worms, we will be here for a while.
So we're going to end you on a cliffhanger, apparently.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Anything else we want to talk about before we wrap things up?
If anybody suggests that you play Doki Doki Literature Club, think real long and hard about this before you jump into it.
Didn't you just suggest Gojo play this game?
No, I said that I was considering whether I might suggest that Kojo play this game, not that I suggest that this happen. I went into it unprepared. That's my PSA for the week.
I feel like I've heard of other Doki Doki games, or possibly anime.
I mean, Baby Metal's first single was Doki Doki Morning.
Doki Doki Panic is the game that became Mario Brothers 2.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Yup.
Yep.
This is completely unrelated to any of that.
Sure.
Yeah, Doki Doki is basically the onomatopoeia for a heartbeat.
Yeah. What a weird game.
Well, on that note, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again next week. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
See
Good
ya.
night.